What's up guys, it's 6Man Sports, and in today's video, I'm going to be previewing the AL East for the upcoming 2022 MLB season, and this will be a 6-part series where I preview every single division for the 2022 MLB season. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on all 6 parts, and let's get into it. This offseason was a pretty eventful one for the Jays. They signed Kevin Gausman and Yusekuchi for rotation depth. They signed Yumi Garcia for a better bullpen piece. They extended Jose Barrios, making that trade so much better. And they traded for Chapman and Rymal Tapia to make the offense and lineup better. So now let's get into the full lineup. Leading off, you've got George Springer, who was injured for most of last season, so it's great to see him have a full healthy season, and let's see what he can do in a full healthy season. He's going to be playing center field, and then now second in the lineup you have shortstop Bichette, who's worked a lot on his defense this offseason it seems, and I'm excited to see how good he's going to do defensively this year. And he also got just much better defensively over the second half of the season. He wasn't throwing as many bad throws, there were less errors, and we already know what you're going to get in terms of offense. He's going to hit for average, steal bases, hit some home runs. He has some pop in that bat, and he has a really aggressive approach. Third in the lineup, you have the second place in the American League MVP. He also won the Silver Slugger and the Hank Aaron Award. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's going to be playing first base, and I just want to see if he can keep up his great pace that he had last season. 48 home runs. He was just amazing last season. But people say he's going to regress. I think he's going to do a little bit better than last season. Last season was amazing, but there's a chance if Vladdy does what he's been doing and his numbers are numbers that are not going to drop, I think his numbers are going to get better. I mean, look at his expected slugging and his expected numbers. They're all around the numbers he actually had, so he wasn't a lucky hitter by any means. In the cleanup spot, we got Teoscar Hernandez, who's going to be playing right field, I think. Some people have been saying the Jays are going to put him at DH, but although Teoscar isn't the best fielder, I think they'd rather put Teoscar at right field so they can get Kirk in at DH and use his valuable bat. So Teoscar, he brings a lot of power to the bat, and he's one of the good success stories from this Jays team. Back in 2019, he wasn't a good hitter. I mean, he hit a lot of home runs, but other than that, it didn't seem like he was going to have a big future on this team. And then in 2020, he came in and just started hitting really good and finished, I'm pretty sure, top 10 in the AL MVP. And then in 2021, he repeated his same process and got even better and was an all-star for the first time. So congrats to Teoscar Hernandez. He's going to be hitting cleanup spot, and I think he'll be doing as good as he's been for the last 2 seasons. In the 5th spot, we got Chapman, the third baseman who they traded for this past offseason for a prospect package that I think was personally way less than I would expected them to give up for a guy of Chapman's caliber. I mean, the defense is obviously there. He's a guy who's been in the MVP voting top 5 for 2 years already, and he's won some platinum gloves for sure. Gold gloves, he's won 3 or 4 of those. Ever since he's entered the league, he's just been a defensive monster, and his offense has been good, except this past season in 2021, he didn't do as well because he had a hip injury, and I think this year he's going to recover from the hip injury well. In a ballpark like Rogers Center compared to the Oakland Coliseum, he's just going to be such a better hitter. Chapman, he's a third baseman who came from Oakland to Toronto. We saw it once with Josh Allenson. I think it's going to be another success story for an Oakland third baseman that comes over with great defense and decent power in his bat. He's going to have a phenomenal season batting in that lineup right behind Guerrero, Bichette, Springer, and Teoscar. He's going to get a bunch of different RBI opportunities, and I'm here to see it. And then 6th in the lineup, you have left fielder Lourdes Gurriel, who isn't the best fielder at all. He has a strong arm, but he's not the best fielder. But he can be a very streaky hitter. I mean, the first half of the season, he wasn't having a good season at all. And then in September, he turned up, had like 30 RBIs, 7 home runs. He was having a great month, and he was one of the reasons the Jays were staying in the playoff hunt after some tough games, and they just went crazy in like September, and they were on a good win streak. So Lourdes Gurriel is one of the main reasons for that, but I'd rather him be consistent because it's probably better, because there's times where he's in a major slump, but there's also times when he's your best hitter on your team. I'd rather him be more consistent. That would be much better for the Jays. But expect another good season from Lourdes Gurriel, probably around the same, not too much better if anything, but probably around the same as he's shown for the last couple seasons. And then now in our 7th spot, we've got the DH, also catcher, Alejandro Kirk. I mean, he is just a phenomenal hitter. His eye, his ball to bat skills. I mean, when he puts the ball on the bat. He has some immense powers. And Alejandro Kirk, he's a great hitter. I don't know how the Jays are going to use him. I'd like him rather use as DH rather than a catcher, although he's got better at catching. Like, he caught Robbie Ray, who won the Cy Young. He's got better at throwing at runners. But the Jays will probably want Danny Jansen's defense behind the plate and his ability to catch all different types of pitchers. So that's why I think they're going to put Kirk at DH and Jansen at catcher. And then in the 8th spot, we've got a guy who's going to have a bounce back season, in my opinion, as well. We've got the only lefty in this lineup, Kevin Bichette, who's going to be playing his normal position of second base. I mean, 2021 was just a big season for Kevin Bichette, where a bunch of things went wrong. First, he was tasked in playing third base, a position he hasn't played in a long time, and he's been used to second base where the throws are shorter. And third base, I mean, he wasn't doing as good. There was a lot of fielding mistakes. It was a new thing for him. Now he should be moving back to his second base position. He just had an assortment of different injuries, like a pinky injury. There was just a bunch of different injuries for Kevin Bichette in 2021. So hopefully those injuries don't happen in 2022. He can be the guy that he used to be in like 2019. Walks and has occasional pop. I mean, he's a guy that you like at your bottom of your order, a good contact hitter, but can also have speed, can walk, have a good plate discipline. He's a great guy you want on your team. And finally, the last guy in the lineup, we have the catcher, Danny Jansen. And while people know Danny Jansen more for his defense, I think one thing should be noted. He's not a bad hitter. And while his stats may look bad, he just had a very atrocious stretch last year in 2021 during the months of like April and May. But as soon as that stretch was over, he had like a 900 OPS, if I'm not mistaken, for the rest of the season. So Danny Jansen is a phenomenal hitter when he can be, and he was very under the radar for the Jays last season. I think he'll show this season why he deserves the starting catching role, not just because of his defense, but also because of his offense. That's it for the lineup. Now let's talk about the bench. So here in the bench, we have Rhys Maguire, another catcher. I know the roster's expanded to 28 people, so now that's why the Jays are going to be carrying 3 catchers for now. I mean, Rhys Maguire, he's lefty. Meanwhile, Kirk and Jansen are righty. So I guess if you want a lefty catcher to bring in pinch hit situations, maybe you could bring in Rhys Maguire. But I mean, the reason the Jays are keeping him is just more versatility. But another thing is they have Gabrielle Moreno, who's going to be coming up. He's their top prospect. He's also a top 10 prospect in all of minor league baseball. He's a top 10 prospect. So I'm excited to see what Gabrielle Moreno brings. He's certainly going to make his debut this year. He also can take some reps in like third and second base, I'm pretty sure. So I want to see how he can be used there. That's just a cool thing, kind of like a Isaac Falefa thing where he moved from catcher to the infield. So let's see how the Jays fix their catching problem. You also have Santiago Espinal on the bench. He also split the third base duties with Kevin Bichette last year, and he showed a decent good hitting as well with strong fielding at third base. He's also probably going to be splitting the second base duties this year with Bichette, but also playing some shortstop in days that Bichette needs rest and will DH. And third base, we all know that's going to be manned by Chapman. Espinal, but probably won't play much third base this season. Now we got Rymal Tapia, who's the outfielder. They traded for Reno Grichuk and a prospect. I like Rymal Tapia just because of the different skills he brings to the Jays. He's not a power hitter, but he has great exit velo. He's a great contact hitter. He has great speed. He can be used in pinch run opportunities. He could start when other players need a day at DH. He has good fielding. I like what Rymal Tapia brings to this Jays team. He's a player every team kind of needs, like a good fourth outfielder. And the final guy on the bench, Greg Bird, the first baseman. I mean, they signed Greg Bird in the offseason. It didn't look like that big of a news or that big of a move, but Greg Bird has had a great spring training and he's been hitting home runs. He's had a great eye at the plate. Greg Bird, I think, will get this last spot in the bench, and he's going to be playing backup first base for when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doesn't, because they don't really have a backup first baseman. That's it for the lineup and the bench. Now let's go into the rotation and the bullpen. Alright, so the rotation is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really have an order as of right now, in my opinion, but let me start with Kevin Gausman. I mean, Kevin Gausman didn't have the best start of his career with the Orioles for the first couple of years. Then he goes to the Giants and the Braves, but he goes to the Braves and the Giants. And then on the Giants, he's been good for the last couple of years, and then the Jays signed him. He's going to be great with the Jays. I'm going to like him a lot. Then we got Jose Barrios, who the Jays signed to a 7-year extension in the offseason, which makes the trade. They traded Austin Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson to the Twins for Jose Barrios. It makes that trade so much better because they now have Barrios locked up for the next 7 years and he's not going to leave. Then you have Hyun-Jin Ryu, who didn't really have the best season. I mean, his first season in Toronto was great. He finished top 3 in the AL Cy Young voting, and he continued his pitching that he pitched with the Dodgers, where he finished second in the NL Cy Young in 2019. So 2 great years where he finishes top 3 in the Cy Young voting. And then 2021 wasn't really that. He was going through some injuries, some strains. He wasn't pitching how we used to know and how we know him pitch. So I think 2022 will be a good bounce back year. Will he go back to his form? And I think he's going to be a much better pitcher, kind of how we saw him in 2019 and 2020. Then you got Alek Manoah. I mean, the rookie last year in his MLB debut threw 6 scoreless innings against the Yankees, and he just is a really competitive pitcher. I really like him. He has some great pitches. He's going to blow some good pitches by you, and Alek Manoah, he's going to be good. I really like him just for the Jays right now and for the future. And then the 5th guy, Yusekuchi, he had a great start to the season with the Mariners last year and was selected as a 2021 All-Star. But he had a bad ending of the year, having like a 6 ERA in the second half of the year, and that was just really bad, to the point where the Mariners were skipping his starts as they were getting close to the postseason. So Kikuchi, first half form of the season, Kikuchi, that's a great 5-starter for your team. Second half of the season, Kikuchi, not so much. I hope Pete Walker, who I'm not really going to talk about the DUI stuff, but I hope Pete Walker and his pitching staff and squad can get Kikuchi fixed and have him similar to his first half of the season, and he'll be a great 5-starter for the Jays. Now let's talk about the bullpen and the final outlook for this team. The bullpen is a pretty good one, but it's what cost the Jays the season last year. So let me talk about the bullpen. You got Jordan Romano, who's one of the best closers in the game. I think he's going to have another phenomenal season. You got Adam Simber and Trevor Richards, who were traded for mid last season. So I want to see what they can do for the Jays in a full season. And then you got Yumi Garcia, who they signed. I think he's going to be very consistent. Tim Meza, who was one of the comeback players after suffering a really bad injury. He came back and had a great season. Then you got Ross Stripling, who will likely be used in long relief as he isn't a starter anymore. Then you got Nate Pearson and Julian Merriweather, who are going to be used in a different variety of roles. So I'll see how the Jays use them, and they're very unique pitchers. Nate Pearson, he's 25 now, and he's just had a bunch of different injuries and setbacks. So I think this can be his year to prove why he can either be a starter or he can be a great bullpen pitcher. Then you finally got David Phelps, who also went through an injury last year, but before the injury, he was fantastic for the Jays, so I want to see if he can repeat it. And you got Ryan Borucki, the lefty, who hasn't been the best, but I think he's got some good stuff, and he's going to be the final man to make this bullpen. So let's talk about team outlook. I mean, this Jays team is clearly really good on all 3 facets: the rotation, the lineup, and the bullpen. I think the lineup and rotation are top tier, and the bullpen is good, but not as good as the lineup and rotation, obviously. I mean, this team is definitely going to contend for the AL East crown, which I think they're going to win. They're going to win the AL East for sure. I mean, they just have more than the other teams, and they don't have to go through injuries that the other teams are facing for right now. So yeah, I have the Jays winning the AL East, and in my MLB season prediction video, I'll tell you guys how far I think they'll go. I think they'll go pretty far in the postseason. And thank you guys for watching the video. Please subscribe and like, and tell me in the comment section down below which team or division you want me to preview next. And hope you guys have a great day. Bye, and thank you.